In order.
I'll move to approve minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve minutes from previous meeting. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye, all ayes, motion carries. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Vicki Payton notified me that she won't be here today. She'll reschedule that at a different time. So there's nothing to add.
Do you want to include some discussion about my Rolling Hills
We can.
yesterday?
Yeah.
I'll make them a motion to amend the agenda to include some discussion about our Rolling Hills Community Services meeting yesterday.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to amend the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all ayes, motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the amended agenda. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye, all ayes, motion carries.
Should we have that Rolling Hills discussion?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. We had our meeting yesterday for Rolling Hills Community Services and had several different points of discussion. We approved our support for trying to secure a PA position for some of the mental health center uses, and because several of them are losing their current commitment for that service, and we were unsuccessful in securing an applicant. She took a job in Omaha for better compensation. The plan is now to step back and look again. I guess there's another possibility that's doing an internship in Western Iowa, and they're going to make contact with that individual to see if there's a possibility of making that arrangement. Yesterday we also had some discussion about our 28E. We had contact from Jan Hikus, one of the support people from DHS who had been here, Jan Hikus and Julie Jetter, to try and work out the language for our 28E arrangement. They called back and had some concern about the idea that making sure everybody understood that there could not be a waiting list in the region if there were available funds at any county point, and which was met with some significant disappointment, because we really thought we had the language, and they said that it would pass and be okay, and now it might not be. I pointed out to everyone that we all knew going in from day one that in a region there could not be a waiting list anywhere if there were available funds, and I know Neil Bach from Carroll really expressed concern that they didn't know if they were going to go along with this and stuff, but I asked them to reconsider, because everybody knew that from the beginning that no one could have a waiting list of any kind if there were resources available anywhere in the region. So hopefully DHS will respond and say that as long as everybody is aware of that part of it, that they'll approve it, but we really don't know yet. So waiting for a response from them to say if we have a 2080 arrangement or not. I had some discussion about the CEO position. We received one application to do the job, trying to sort out what appropriate compensation might be for that. Once the region secures the CEO, then there will be discussion about the need for the case service coordinators. And at this point, BV County has indicated interest in being the fiscal agent, and I'm glad someone stepped up and said they do it. That's a good thing, and they've done. We've actually asked some of their administrative help for our billing, and so they've really got it figured out. They have a gal that's quite sharp at it. And so those are kind of the main points. They presented their first draft of the management plan yesterday. We had a screen and projector in here and kind of gave the rough draft of that. On March 25th, we'll have a 2 o'clock governance board meeting, and then there's an advisory board meeting after that, which they're going to ask for additional input for that management plan on the 25th of March. It's supposed to be submitted, the management plans from the regions, by April 1st. There's been some discussion about if they are not right on that date, that it will be acceptable to be a little late on that. And it's a big thing and a tough thing to get put together. The gals and Jim Tracy have done a lot of work. Don Metzer, Lisa Mayer, and Louise Galbraith, the current CPCs of the counties in the region. So, anybody have any questions about it?
Did you say the governance plan was due by April 1?
The management plan.
Management plan.
Yeah, the regional management plan. That pretty much defines what services are going to be available and kind of operation piece.
Is Dawn the person you're looking at right now for CEO?
She submitted an application.
Is she the only one?
Yes.
Do you recall her last name?
Menser. Don Menser from Early, Iowa. Very capable gal.
Did you guys discuss a range for a salary?
I was instructed, I'm serving as the interim chairman until we actually get our official 2080 approved. I was directed to ask her to submit a proposal. So that's where it's at. There's an awful lot of stuff that's supposed to be done by July 1 and not much time to do it. But I have to say I'm very pleased with our current CPC staff, and in the region they've really stepped up and have done a lot of work.
Rick, do you have those 2 little sticky notes that I gave you yesterday?
I do. Got one. I had the second one too, Jim. Maybe I'll do this. Do you want me to get try and find the second one?
If you could.
We pass that around.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's new, Sheriff?
What a difference a day will make.
It was gorgeous yesterday.
sold my parents' old house for the second time on a sheriff's sale since they moved.
Is that right?
In early?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Kinda weird.
How long were they there?
Oh, gosh, I don't. Probably 17 years, probably.
Yesterday also, there was quite a lot of, in discussion of that management plan, there's a set core service schedule that everyone is supposed to have, that you're mandated to have, and then once you've had those, if there's available money, you're supposed to start filling the added core service pieces. And, so that's going to be kind of a difficult thing to sort out. And actually what's needed, and it's certainly not a one thing fits everybody. The rural areas maybe don't have the same needs that Des Moines might have. So.
And pardon me if I misunderstood something. Are they trying to make everything be one size fits all?
Initially, that's kind of what drove the thing, in my opinion. There was a drive that said that every Iowan had to have the same available service statewide. Well, the thing got off track right out the gate, because then there was a caveat added that you have to have these core services, but by the way, if you have extra money, you have to have added core services. Well, some areas may barely be able to meet the core service mandate, and then there might be areas that have significant money, and so you've really defeated the whole driver of the redesign from my perspective.
That was what was supposed to make it cost less.
Well, and the big thing was, and in principle that was okay, saying that everybody ought to have the same availability and ability to get the same services, but that really isn't what come out of there. There's a core service mandate, and then by the way, if you have extra money, you can have added core services. So some areas will have added core services, and others will only have the core. Well, to me, that didn't follow the driver for this redesign. So, and there's a set of core services, and then there's a huge list of what might be categorized as added core services. The regions get to determine what added core services that might be a priority in your area. Those added core are a list, and you can pick from the list to what you think the need is in your area.
What's the population of the rural, outside the incorporated areas?
I think we had one time been told between 3,000 and 4,000.
You know what it is, Jim?
I think that's still pretty close.
It wasn't like 3,700.
Yeah, I don't know offhand.
I can go down and check, I got it downstairs.
Oh, do you?
If
Yeah,
actually
I got
want
it
that
somewhere.
number.
Um, wait a minute. 3,105.
Pretty close.
I was just looking at solid waste. Our assessment is rural and urban is $22. So you divide that 68,000, it's 3,000.
It's pretty close.
Total population is 10,300.
Mhm. I'm going to, at the end of the month, go down and participate in a Head Start review. I've not done that before. The federal government comes in like every 3 years. And, Gene Miners is, as the chairman, is heavily involved in it, and they want to visit with other board members to see that we're getting the information that they're. Actually, they're coming to Carroll.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And actual, what is that? What's more than we get an SCTD?
Yeah.
And then,
There's 6,000 that's work, there's 35,000 that goes to the special projects fund.
so I don't think so, no.
Yeah, Western Iowa Tourism.
Yeah.
Is there a league meeting tomorrow? Where's that at?
Early at the Presbyterian Church.
Lit.
It's the Lytton Community Center.
Did you have to RSVP?
You still can. Renell and I are going to be in Des Moines.
I'm going.
You're going to league meeting?
Nancy Jansen called this morning, she needs to know by noon. And I've got a cell phone number.
I got it.
Number 2. Yeah, call Nancy.
When's the cruddy weather to get here?
4 o'clock's the snow, rain.
Is it?
It's supposed to be above freezing again by tomorrow, isn't
Is that
60 tomorrow.
it? 60.
Oh, really?
I'm not doing any shoveling.
No.
No.
Wow. Hmm.
Curtis, we're SCTD, we're in the process of interviewing candidates to replace Shirley. We'll probably decision will be made next week. Technically, that is.
I learned earlier you guys were going to be conducting some phone interviews. A lot of out-of-state candidates.
Actually, one.
One of
Well, you know, the people that, are we in recess now?
Yeah.
oh,
We'll open the public meeting for the budget, 2014-15.
The budget, as was proposed in the paper, calls for a total tax asking of $5,769,464, which is up from the current budget by $376,800. The tax levy remained the same, total tax levy remained the same. Some of the differences include in Service Area 1, the public safety, there was an increase in wages and overtime insurance. We increased the contribution to the emergency management, and the insurance that is shown in the 2014-15 budget actually is an increase. The increase is reflected from the 12-13 budget, because this current budget that we have right now was adopted before we had the new rates. So we're actually going to have to amend this 13-14 budget to make up the difference on our insurance premium. So that's kind of the reason for the big increase in the insurance line items. Service Area 3, the public health nurses budget was up $120,000. That was due largely in part to the addition of a couple of staff members to take up the slack from the Loring Hospital when they eliminated their home health care service.
Jim, could I stop you for a second?
Sure.
You're going through expenditures, like in the public nurse piece, that $120,000 doesn't reflect any revenue.
No, these are
Change.
just total, just changes.
Just
in
expenditures.
Yes.
We will incur quite a lot of increase in revenue from this $120,000 change, I guess what I want to point out.
The mental health fund is down considerably because of the redesign and the lowered limit on allowable levying authority by the state. Service Area 5 is the environmental quality, conservation. There's a little bit of an increase there for wages and some additional part-time help in conservation. A 3% increase in contributions to the libraries from the Rural Basic Fund. Service Area 7, the total expenditures for secondary roads were up $287,300. Service Area 8, election expenses up because of the purchase of some new equipment that we actually spread that out over a 3-year purchase agreement for a no-interest agreement with a vendor. Service Area 9 is the policy administration. There's some new equipment there in the treasurer's office, partial payment on our pictometry and the general services. And we've also added some expense, or some $50,000 for a new roof over the courtroom and the clerk courts. All of these expenditures, the total budget leaves us with about a 28.8% carryover, which is in line with the recommendations from the Department of Management, which suggest a 25 to 30% carryover. So, and it varies from service area, or from fund to fund. Okay. So, questions?
Go ahead.
I got some questions, okay? I'd like to direct your attention to line 40 on the front page. And go to the actual 12, 13 numbers. 6,279,525. That seems to be high to me. The amount of money we've got left over, and I guess first thing we ought to do is ask why.
Who wants to respond?
Yeah, I guess the majority of that, or the greater majority would be in secondary roads. And some of it's attributed to, some of our major expenditures now are road overlays, putting a 4.5 inch lift on the roads, and we haven't had any projects of that sort for 2 years. This year, we'll spend about $2.5 million on the paved road west of Wall Lake. And the second part of that, when we negotiated for the transfer of jurisdiction on Highway 20 to a county road, the Department of Transportation, we negotiated a one-time payment of approximately $2.4 million.
2.7.
Or $2.7 million, and that's in this fund balance. It shows up in the audit and here, and that could be spent, you know, as part of that agreement, we accepted 13 more additional miles of paved road, and now that's our responsibility to maintain and care for. And so that TJ money, or that 2.7, in our minds, we're saving that for future repairs. And it's no secret that we're living, you know, we're not keeping up with depreciation on our roads and fuel tax, and our major source of revenue beyond local property tax isn't keeping up with the cost of caring for roads. So in the future, if there's unexpected needs for money, whether it be bridges or road surface, you know, that money will be there for the county to utilize.
Okay, what happens to that money until it's used?
It'll be invested.
So it goes into, I don't know, a savings account of some kind, then? But it's carried on the books as cash when you close out.
Yeah.
So that'll probably be there then for a year or two,
Yeah.
till it's used, huh?
Yep. And one thing, Jim, I would add to that, and you did an excellent job of explaining, a lot of areas, if we were to use that for current operations, we could not generate that kind of money for an overlay of that size. I mean, so it's important that we keep it back for that purpose, because that's now our responsibility and will be our responsibility in the future. That additional 13 miles, and you know, that is, I mean, it's significant, and that is a cash fund balance, but it's pretty much it's a designated future capital expense fund balance.
You know, we have a concern. Yep. The majority of our bridge work, about 80% of it is federal money, and as per policy, been doing one or two small bridges per year. This year, we're doing a repair to the bridge west of Wall Lake. It's gonna be 700, almost 800,000 just for a bridge. And I guess our bridges are, the load limits are being posted in bridge inspection. We're really concerned about trying to keep up. We've got maybe 30 bridges that are gonna be, needed to be repaired or closed in say, the next 5 to 10 years. And we've been doing 1.5 to 2 bridges per
Yeah,
year.
we've done a good 2 and sometimes 2.5.
But, you know, the reasoning was, you know, has been before we got here, and is to try and, you know, maximize your federal money and identify the bridge projects in advance and use that federal money plus state and some local to repair or rebuild. But we're replacing bridges on mostly on our paved roads. We're replacing bridges that cost $15,000 to build in the late 50s, early 60s. And it's costing approximately $300,000 to replace those $15,000 structures. I think it's, you know, conceivable that some of that fund that we got might have to be used to supplement our bridge work.
And also, some of this money, if the project was done in 12, it didn't get paid till 13. So that money was carried over to pay for that bridge. It was started in 12, but didn't get paid till 13. So that's some of that money too.
You probably have that every year though. don't
We
you?
do, and that can really fluctuate. That can fluctuate $500,000 from one to the next, because really, pretty frequently we'll have them budgeted in 2 years. It might get started in, say, 12, but not get completed till 13, and that's an ongoing thing. And that's fluid in that you could have a movement of anywhere from $500,000 to $750,000 from one to the next, and you really can't pinpoint that to 1 year, I guess.
What was the ending fund balance 2011, 2012? Was that 3,477,000?
Which fund are you looking at?
All funds are.
Well, I'm still on that line 40, but I'm going back 3 years. So I don't have those.
2011 was 3,288,172.
So that would have been the amount of money that was on that line 40 then.
Yep. And they 11, no 11.
All right, how about 10?
10 was $3,932,081.
And 9, 10?
We only have to 10. We have 10, 11, 12, and 13.
Okay. So that 6 million is an aberration then.
Well, yes.
Because normally you'll run 3.
3 to 3.9,
Yeah.
and you 2.7 of that is additional from that.
Okay.
The disappointing part of that is the ability to invest at much of a return.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm very pleased. When we signed on to that arrangement, we negotiated the initial payment on a per mile basis, but then said we wouldn't sign unless we had an inflation factor. That inflation factor netted us about $1 million from the time it was first signed to the time that we had to accept the transfer of jurisdiction. So that balance increased $1 million because of that inflation factor.
Another thing, you know, relating to that transfer jurisdiction and the Highway 20 situation, next year they're going to rebuild Highway 196 and the 2 bridges. It's a state project, 2 bridges and basically a re-engineered road. And that point, it's our estimation that that will no longer be called State Highway 196. It'll probably be designated Highway 71. And then you carry that to a little bit farther from Quirk's Corner or the Country Club Corner north to Early. We could be, you know, whether we want to or not, we could be forced to take that stretch of road. That would become a county road.
They're encouraging you to take ownership of that.
No.
We're
just
discouraging it.
We just, well, yeah, we don't, obviously we don't. But, you know, it's conceivable, we know how these things work in the legislature.
Well, they won't do from Quirk's east.
No, that'll be State Highway 166.
That'll be state.
But from there north,
Yeah, it'll be-
it's quite conceivable, and that's kind of a road that they would love to get rid of for different reasons, snow removal and some of those cuts. They use a rotary.
Yeah.
We don't have one. So, you know, that's down the road, and it hasn't happened yet.
You know, every time that we get an opportunity, I tell them we don't want it, and so they've kind of cooled off a little bit from their initial approach. Have you heard anything lately?
Well, and their initial approach was just to, you know, be thinking about this because someday we'll want to give it to you. I mean, they really haven't made any official, you know, try to start discussing
Supervisors,
transfers.
Vernell.
But they haven't bothered you recently about it, or?
They haven't said anything more, no.
Yes,
But, you know, like I say, the handwriting's on the wall that when they get 196 road rebuilt, I'm sure they'll renumber that to 71. And
yes, you get a 3%.
There's another piece of that,
And
and
all-
most folks don't understand it, but
Ye-
there
Yeah,
was
we're
a
gonna
point
give $2,200
when we
for
first
that.
came on, Dean, that the legislature moved,
And make
and
sure
said,
you submit that to
you're gonna
Jim
take
or the
this.
auditor's office.
and
before-
that's happened one
before
time in the
first.
history that
And we
I'm
do it
aware
this
of,
year,
but
yeah.
if there's a point where
Okay.
um,
I was gonna call you.
The county
when we got done. We're in
refuses.
our meeting, but.
this
No,
absolutely
that's
says
fine.
under no condition.
But I was gonna
will
call
we-
you when we got done.
we accept that transfer. Their option is to get the legislature to say,
No,
here
that's
it
fine.
is, with no
You're welcome.
compensation. And
Yep, thank
so
you.
that was you have to walk a very fine line in that.
Well, there was minimal compensation there for taking those roads, because for 10 years,
Right.
and I can't remember what the percentage of the DOT, it was like 0.5% or something, but that legislation 10 years ago, we got the, what was the old road coming into
Wall Lake.
36, was that the number?
Yeah.
We got that section there, that was what, 3.5 miles? And then we got a half mile there, the road that went down to the old dance hall in Lake View there, I can't remember.
Lakewood
Lakewood.
cutoff.
I can't even remember what the number of that was.
Goes like Graham Road.
245. But with those transfers, that Senate File 451, we got about $24,000 a year for taking those 4 miles of road.
But that's very small compensation in comparison to what was negotiated in this last 20
Yes, yeah.
piece.
And we were fortunate, we didn't get many miles. There's some counties that got quite a stretch of old roads. And that's part of the reason, you know, when they started talking about new Highway 20, they wouldn't proceed with the plans till the county had signed an agreement saying we'll take the old one, because there's some counties that they didn't get that done, and then when they tried to transfer it, the counties set their heels and said we aren't gonna take them. But there were counties at that time that were in the middle of negotiating $1 million transfer deals, and they were told by some of their legislators that that'll never go through, and the next thing they knew, they got 10 or 15 miles of old state road and very little money.
Right. That's right.
But that 10 years is up now, and at the end of that 10 years, the money, instead of going to the counties that got the roads, now goes into the road use fund and gets distributed between all counties, and we're actually gonna gain, because we didn't get many roads, we're gonna get more money now than we had been getting before. But the counties that got lots of roads and we're getting a bigger share of the money, they're gonna lose funding.
How much of that 6.2 million is carried over from the road use fund?
From secondary roads, you mean?
Secondary roads.
In normal years, that secondary road fund has been anywhere from 750,000 to $1.2 million plus the 2.7 million.
Not this new one, yeah.
Yeah.
So about 4 million.
Yeah, at the end of 13, our audited balance, secondary roads was $4,275,000. And the year before, we'd been running about $1.5 million.
Yep.
Ron, you know, we talked about it recently, but to put a 4-inch, 4.5-inch lift on a road costs approximately $250,000 per mile.
Yeah, roughly.
And then the shoulder, does that include the last project we used limestone, and that was another $300,000 or $400,000?
Yeah.
But Jim, getting back to the 13 miles we took, that 2.7 may be used to care for those 13 miles, or we might use it somewhere else in the county.
Yeah.
But you take 13 times 250,000 per mile, that's over $3 million to take care of those 13 miles, or 13 miles over by Old Bull or Lippin or wherever.
Yeah, we roughly got 200,000 miles.
What justification is there for having money carried over in the secondary road fund instead of spending it?
Well, one thing is we gotta operate from July 1st to
October.
Till the first draw.
October, and I don't know, I guess I never tracked our balance during those periods to see, but sometimes we've got construction projects during that time, and the money's getting paid out during the summer.
So it's operating money then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one other example, we had, since we've been on the board, we had a piece torn up pretty badly that we had to use local funds. What was the number on that? Was in the west side.
It was on the Ida SAC border, goes by, you know,
M30.
27?
all the
No,
sudden.
that's
35.
It was 35, yeah. It was the year I got on the board, we spent $650,000, wasn't budgeted. You know,
because I
was truck
went to
traffic
pieces
or
we
whatever.
couldn't wait.
You know,
That's that Arthurville.
Mhm.
Yeah.
you look at
Between
these-
Arthur and Odie.
That, no, it'd been the one North Arthur, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No,
Between Arthur and Odie is Ida State.
but the one going north Arthur is all Ida County.
Yeah,
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
it's the one that,
It's the one, Snyder's Corner,
The
or,
next one east.
yeah,
Okay.
goes past Pete Renzi, Donnie Miller.
Yeah.
So that example plus operating is the answer.
Yeah. Okay.
well, we've gone through, you know, collective bargaining, that we just gone through that a year and a half ago. And the neutrals, or the people who are working on behalf of the union, point out, well, if you have that fund balance, you know, you're more than capable of getting our people. And we got through that, we negotiated through that process at the same time the state was too. But, you know, I think it's, we made the point that that's not for new equipment or salaries, that's for infrastructure. That's how we receive
You were
it.
able to sell that argument.
Yeah, and it worked. You know, it might not the next time, but
Okay, on that same front page, you've got line 15 is operating transfers in, and line 29 is operating transfers out. You got the same amount of money there. What is that?
That's, secondary roads is not a taxing authority, so we have to generate those dollars from the general basic and the rural basic. We generate them in those two funds, and then we transfer them to secondary roads.
Okay.
The transfers out are the transfers out of general basic and rural basic, and the transfers in are the transfers into secondary roads. So they would be the same number.
What percent of the secondary road fund is financed by the state of Iowa now?
That would have to come from Ron. I don't-
That's a good question.
and Ron could point out the amount of money that we're allowed to tax rural basic for roads. We've increased that levy a little,
3 years ago down.
but there's a, you know, if we would lower that to the point where it was, and Ron can better explain that than me, but there's a point where if you don't levy a certain amount
Locally.
in
75%.
locally, then you don't maximize your state draw.
Okay, that's still on the books then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but we, you know, we're above that, but I think it only generated, or I'm trying to remember, like 150,000 additional money over the, say, the minimum that we're at, that 10 cents.
We're around, isn't the maximum, or the minimum is either 75 or 78%?
75%.
And we're around 80, aren't we?
Some counties are maxed.
We're at 87.5.
Sorry.
But what we do is we levy the maximum in general basic, we make up the difference in rural basic. So the levy in the rural basic is, percentage-wise, is considerably less than what it is in the general basic. The total dollars generated has to be 75%.
So you're basically levying enough to qualify for full reimbursement from the state of Iowa.
That's correct.
Yeah. What Jim's trying to say is the maximum levy on all property is 16.78 cents. And so we're levying the maximum on all property, which goes to the general fund. And then on rural property, we're levying, our maximum levy is $3.38, and we're levying at 2.60.
260.
But the combination of those two together, we're at 87.5% of what our maximum would be.
Yeah. Well, Sac County has always been pretty fortunate in that you haven't had to max that out.
Folks,
What percent of the counties max that out?
the lower two tiers are
Yeah.
all
Well,
maxed.
they're struggling.
We're bonding for some projects.
They are,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Well, and that local effort, I mean, when I look at the local effort, I look at just where we're taxing at. We do get to count some of the work that Sean O'Neill does with roads, weed spraying and that stuff. We get to count, when I do an annual report, I count that. I guess I'd have to go back and look at our annual report to see, so our percentage is a little higher than 87.5 because I can report that money.
So the secondary road fund runs around 4 million, is that right? So is half of that state money?
Probably 60%. We get 2.5 million in my 15 budget. 2.5 million is road use tax. A little over 300,000 is Time 21 money, and then the TJ. The money that I talked about was going to the county. We got the roads before where we get 24,000. This next year we're gonna get 76,000 of that. So that gave us about a $50,000 boost there. So whatever those three numbers together would be, 2.8, almost 3 million.
Yeah.
Is the road. In fact, that number should be.
So that's 75%.
So if you're really nervous about fixing all the bridges, you'd be maxed out on that levy.
Easily.
Oh. Well,
If we were trying to,
that bridge west of Wall Lake, we're remodeling for different reasons, but just the remodel is 800,000. You know, we looked at a new bridge, we would have had to, for the first time ever, we would have had to buy flood easements to upriver landowners. It's a new DNR thing coming back from the floods over in eastern Iowa. And our bridge engineering firm that we work with in Des Moines, they estimated that cost at $500,000 just for the easements.
Litigation.
So, you know, I guess, you know, my concern, you know, roads are a big part of our responsibility for the landowners of the county. And I don't know how many years ago, the light went off in my head that regardless of what you think about taxation, if you own property in Sac County, you know, you should be paid should be pushing for an increase in the use fund, the road, the fuel tax. Because we're living on, we're not keeping up with inflation, and roads are important, and I'd much rather, see the fuel tax increase to pay for that increase in cost. And also, some of the out-of-state travelers' trucks, there's different estimates. Conservatives that don't want to raise any tax say it's 15%, and some people say 25%. But if you can get out-of-state people to pay 20% into that pot that we get a part of, I think it's a no-brainer.
Well, yeah. We're gonna stand a better chance down the road because when, what is it? Trombino, is that his name?
Yeah.
He's, I think, done about as good a job of running that department as anybody has in recent years. And what the governor tells me anyway, and people get confident that they got the waste and the goofiness out of those expenditures, then they're gonna be willing to give you more money. My attitude anyway.
Well, that's the attitude of a lot of people in Iowa. They wonder, if we're being extravagant with their use of the deal. Sometimes it's hard for us to understand their criteria for spending. For example, 196, they're gonna, that road sits up pretty good, and instead of just repaving it and calling it good, they're gonna tear up the whole road, grade a new road, pave it, and change
Put in
approaches.
3 new bridges.
And to a lot of people in Sac County or anywhere, they're going, why do we have to spend that kind of money? And, the reason is for snow, partly snow and safety. And
That's their new standard.
And sometimes I think that's why people are kind of wrestling at the idea of raising the fuel tax. They're going, maybe we should be more frugal with our money.
That's always the theme, yeah. Okay. All right, let's see what else I got here. Is the, let's see, gotta get the right terminology. Permit for buildings that we just passed here 2 years ago. What do we call that?
Zoning?
Zoning.
Zoning. Yeah, county zoning.
Construction permit.
County zoning. Is county zoning a profit center?
No, it's cash flow.
But is it, are you taking in money to run the department?
Is it paying for her time? Yes, I believe it is. There's nothing,
So we're not subsidizing?
it's not a fund builder, but it's covering her time. And we've got a very, very capable gal, Sherry Wilson, does a good job at that.
Dan, you were pretty frugal in setting up that office. Is she a shared person with?
Yeah, she does all the sanitarian jobs.
Yeah.
She took on that piece as part of her sanitarian work. So that's one of the reasons it doesn't cost a lot, is because it's just paid time for, in addition to her sanitation.
Did you have to have a fee to build your building or no?
Ag is free.
Okay.
Just
Initially, Jim,
residential's.
we were wrong. We thought we were going to charge $50 minimum, and the Farm Bureau and different people pointed out, I shouldn't say, different resources said that wasn't appropriate or legal,
Yeah.
so we backed off from that. But some of the bigger ones, we get fees. And, as time goes on, more people, by word of mouth, they're realizing that they build a garage or a bin, they're supposed to file for a permit. And it's going pretty well. Some people, are forgetting to, but according to Sherry, it's improved a lot, and people are being pretty cooperative about it.
And you got the used car site cleaned up north of town.
They did it.
Yeah.
It's gone.
That's a tough, on our unincorporated Carnarvon and Almer unincorporated villages, they're my part of the county, and Sherry and I've worked on trying to put some teeth into the code, and it's hard. There's some pretty bad messes. There's one big mess in Ulmer, right by Farmville, and it's hard. You know, we don't have any code or any law to help us with that.
Well, Odebo Incorporated, we got messes like that, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get rid of that. That ain't gonna go away.
Well,
It seems to run in the family too.
Yeah, it's genetics. Okay. Well, yeah, of course, some of you know that I was opposed to county zoning, I still am, and I'm glad to hear that we're not having to raise taxes, subsidize the department. But we ought to be encouraging all the building we can, and like I said, you're not gonna get rid of those bad residents anyway. They're gonna figure out a way to get around you.
I mean, I think one thing, good thing that's come out of the building permits that I think was happening a few times in the past was people would build buildings and not realize they're building on top of a drainage district tile. I mean,
Yeah, okay.
I know there's at least one of them that happened. If zoning was in place when that was done, I think Sherry checks that to make sure there's no district tile close to where they're building.
I know of a couple of places in the county where the zoning has prohibited creation of a new junkyard, so it's working that way.
you know, when the windmills came into the Shaler area, you know, Buena Vista had zoning, and for example, their county engineer, they were way ahead of Sac County because they had, before, when they first came in with the project, you know, they were made aware of it because they had zoning. In Sac County, we heard about it in a slower process. They would contact Ron or Mike Rydell and say, you know, we need driveways here with this. And, you know, I think it's not a big thing, but if something like that does come into the area, you've got some advance warning. And instead of being reactive, you can be more proactive.
Yeah. Well, I was disappointed, we own property in Buena Vista County, and it was a natural drainage to run a tile out of the farm field into the road ditch. And they made me put in an extra 500 foot of tile to run it into a creek, because I couldn't dump it in the road. Do we have that in second? Can you outlet a farm tile into a road ditch?
We've had this discussion, Jim.
I'm sure you have, because it happens all the time. Some sewers he would get. Right.
Oh, that's not happening. But
Not any new sewers.
there's we've had this discussion
It's
on a
pretty-
personal basis.
It's a
for
pretty
me,
gray area.
It is, and I had some abrasion to that because you are taking what is currently underground water and surfacing it versus a waterway that's already on top. I kind of think that we probably shouldn't be able to vent those tiles in the road ditch. That's my personal opinion, because you're now taking subsurface water and making it surface water.
Well, Rick, you're doing it anyway. The only difference is you're dumping into a creek instead of a road.
Right, but that facility is made for that. The road ditch really isn't in most cases. But is there a rule that says you can't? No, there is not.
One of the reasons that I like to keep an eye on the cash carryover is that we're talking anywhere from $2 to $4 million that you're sucking out of the economy and putting it in taxes that could be used to recirculate in the community. I don't know what it is on taxes not paid, but you know, they talk about the farm economy. For every dollar we generate ag produce, generates another 7 in the community. Well, for every dollar that you don't pay, what does that regenerate in the community? I don't know that. Maybe the same. But that's why I think that, you know, we work so hard for economic development. And then when if we unwisely tax, it's the same thing as pulling economic development out of the community. That's where I'm coming from. I think we need to keep those dollars in the private sector and keep working as much as we can. So. Well, I gotta compliment you on, I don't know, Rick, I guess you've been working on that mental health thing about as hard as anybody, but you made some real headway there according to budget.
And that's not something I can accept. Yeah. I mean, that's not because of my efforts. We're trying. The state kind of set the levying rule and following through with that. I think over time, I hated to see any kind of local control diminish, because I think because of accessibility and the fact that we do things more efficiently than higher levels of government, I truly believe that. And for those two reasons, I hate to see any kind of local control go away. This regional piece, if they allow us to operate and do the things on a local basis that we want to and need to do, I think this can be positive. We're gonna be able to keep our local points of access. We've got some excellent staff in the region. I'm very happy with that. So we're just trying to sort through it, and the state did take over some responsibility for some Medicaid folks that we're now not having to rely on money coming back from the state to pay for. We have multiple hurdles that we have to try and work through, but like I said, if they allow us to react and do the things that we choose to locally, I think it can be a good thing over time, and I think we have good partners at the table to work with. We've got good working relationships with the counties that are in the region, and we also have some excellent staff, and I'm hopeful that it'll continue to be a good thing.
Now, when the county has to step in and pay for mental health, does any of that ever get billed back to the family?
We have, that's, maybe should or shouldn't give an editorial here, but I feel like my personal view of this healthcare situation is a significant step backwards, in that I feel like there's, in the past, some of the folks that were needing mental health services, if they had the resources available, they were paying at a slide fee scale to participate in helping pay for some of the care, or if they had private insurance, providers were able to bill for that. I have some concern moving forward. It seems like some of the federal government are more than others proud that everybody's supposed to have a policy now. Well, what doesn't get brought to the front is that a lot of those policies are of very poor quality. They're going to have a very high deductible. There's going to be a significant copay, and I feel like on the front end of this, a lot of these providers, both hospitals and private providers, are probably going to be worse off financially than they were before. In my view, all they're getting out of this is catastrophic coverage. If they get through the large deductible and they get through the significant copay and get to the large coverage or the catastrophic coverage, yeah, it's going to help with catastrophic. I think on the lower end, where maybe some folks were paying a piece of a sliding scale or a portion of that, isn't going to get paid now. And so that puts a lot of the providers in worse position than they were unless it's a catastrophic problem. So,
Well, that's gonna come back on all of us because doctors are just like you and I, they're not gonna work unless they think they're properly compensated, and we're gonna lose a class or two of doctors, maybe, if they don't think the financial reward is satisfying. Then that's too bad.
so I'm really, I think there's gonna be some significant abrasiveness when a lot of the providers recognize the fact that there's a huge deductible there and that there's a significant copay that probably isn't gonna get addressed. And I think that's gonna come to surface here in 6 to 12 months.
Well, from the county standpoint, we've gotta be sure that we don't make the help so easy and so attractive that people take advantage of it unduly. When people need help, they need help. But if those expenses that are paid are kept on the books and billed back to that family to pay when they can and if, then that should be done, I think.
It's really, we've often commented this process we're going through now to a regional system. There's a lot of people that feel that's just a temporary, it won't be long, will it be a state system? And you look at the handwriting on the wall.
It changes your involvement, but the taxpayers, you got people that are abusing the system, the taxpayers pay it one way or another, so. And, we have benefits every week in Sac County where we chip in and help people when they have rough spots, and that's part of our culture, and that's good. But if it gets abusive, well, then you're gonna ruin the system. That's what's gonna happen. Well,
Certainly a concern.
thank you.
Thank you for your
Thanks, Jim.
input.
Appreciate you coming up and asking some questions.
Yeah, my question was pretty well answered, I think.
It'd probably be good if more people showed interest in the hearing and came. And
Well,
I don't know how to take that.
there's a lot of us senior citizens that had a hard time reading that in the Chronicle. The print was pretty small. So we gotta print out that it made more sense.
Thank you, Jim.
Yep, thank you.
That motion?
Motion's been made and seconded to close the budget hearing. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All ayes, motion carries.
I will make the motion to reduce the compensations board recommendation for the elected officials by 25% and the supervisors 50%.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All ayes, motion carries.
Need a motion for the budget.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the budget as presented today at the hearing.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the budget. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All ayes, motion carries.
Thanks for coming over, Ron. Appreciate it.
I was hoping to be here a little earlier than we got here.
Went out my garage, cigarette water there in the morning.
Oh.
So, haven't figured out what's plugged up yet.
Frost,
Well, I assume so.
that's what I'm hearing.
There's a lift pump in the basement that pumps the kitchen and the bathroom in the basement up. And at first, in the garage, it's hooked to that line. So at first, we thought maybe it was plugged between that line and where it goes into the septic. It catches the house and then goes into the septic tank. I got to thinking about it, we didn't run any water through that system this morning. It wasn't there last night, so it makes me wonder if it's somewhere else, so.
That's no fun.
I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about budget. I need to do a better job of getting hold of Jim or Tina and getting these sent to me before it goes to the paper. Because I didn't realize till yesterday when I started looking this closely, after she sent it to me, that when we talked about new equipment budget and keeping the new equipment the same as it was last year, I had made the assumption, I guess, that would be kept the same on the DOT budget, which on the local budget, we've always have to add the trade values in there to have a higher amount, so then when the revenue comes back, it offsets each other. And so when she changed it to the same as it was last year, 422,000, she didn't take out the 87,000 that I had in revenue to offset that. Does that make sense?
422 is just fine.
Right, but it's got revenue on my revenue side that should have been taken out too then.
He can find that extra.
We didn't push much snow this year, we're in good shape.
I'm just saying, I would have changed it, or I would have had a discussion with you saying, we'll leave the DOT budget at 410 and increase the local budget for that trade value, because what the DOT wants to see is what the net trade is. And on the local budget, we've got to show, let me back up. If we don't trade, like on a motor grader with CAT, if we trade CAT on the local budget and the DOT budget, we just show the net trade.
Right.
But if we've been taking quotes on those machines and have been getting some better prices from Track 2 and other dealers, when we do that, then we gotta show that as a revenue, and then we gotta show the full price on the local budget.
It still works for me.
I'm just trying to explain. I mean, we'll work with what's there.
Well, I know the answer to that, they'll trade it to CAT, there's no question.
Well, and that's what I want to avoid doing, when we can make better money. But if that happens, I might have to come back next year.
I'm just winding your watch, Ron.
I'll have to go back and adjust my DOT budget too, to reflect that. But anyway, well, never mind. That was with my sheet. County crews, sanding, plowing roads as needed. Continue to stockpile 3/4 inch road stone at Wall Lake. Placing rock at several gravel road intersections around the county. Cutting trees in the right of way. Removing the field entrance bridge on 190th Street east of Guard Avenue. I'm trying to remember which one that is. Is that the one of, I think it's Fells, isn't it?
Fells live on Guard Avenue, yeah.
We've got, that other situation where we had the entrance bridge coming off our gravel road for, I'm not even gonna remember the name now. Where we built the bottom crossing through the thing. That bridge is still,
North of Nemaha.
yeah, northeast of Nemaha. That bridge is still there, but since that worked last spring, I told Mike to get that bridge out of there. And so we will remove that bridge too, but this is, I think, one on Fells that we gave them another driveway in a different location because that structure.
So that's all been worked out, and that's
Yeah.
gonna go.
Yeah, we've actually built the entrance quite a while ago, and I think Mike just sort of forgot about taking that out. I told him that would be something that could get done this winter, is take that one out and then take that other structure out too. Because they're both in bad enough slick shape that we really don't want anybody removing the barricades and trying to cross them. So. Project status, the Boy River Bridge, we've got a pre-construction meeting this Thursday at 10 o'clock with Christensen Brothers, and of course we invite all the utilities and et cetera to that too. And the DOT comes down, and we'll probably have a pretty good discussion about how they're gonna do things, and et cetera.
When are you estimating they're gonna close the road?
The contract requires a late start of April 1st. So I'm guessing they can close it before that if they want to, but they have to close it by April 1st and get started. And they've got 60 days
Yeah, it's 60.
construction period, so that's 12 weeks. We requested that the DOT put a fairly early, late start on that because we were anticipating the white topping getting done sometime after July 1st, so that'll be by the next
So that
next month.
that work will be done in advance of that, is what you're saying?
Yes. We're raising the bridge approaches just a little bit, especially on the west side of the bridge, and so we'll have to bring the, road up to there. The way we left it in the contract was, the bridge contractor will provide the bridge approach, and then they'll leave a rock section on either end. If there's a time period, in between where the traffic needs to go across there, we'll probably put some reduced speed signs up or something like that. But I've heard that the paving contractors are hungry, and I think they'll want to get started right away too, so they might actually, it's feasible that they could work on starting on the west end of the Ida County line and start coming back at the same time the bridge is closed, so.
I hope we can make up some ground on this bid, because we had to overpay for the bridge work, so we need to catch up 100,000.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll know more after our meeting on Thursday. But I know the contractor's antsy to get started because he was actually, well, the DOT doesn't want us having any conversation with the contractor, and the DOT doesn't want to have any conversations with the contractor before the contract is back to the state. They've got the contract, they've got the bond, they got the certificate of insurance, everything is okay. And that actually didn't get approved with the goof up we had with the bond till the 3rd. So in the meantime, I know that the contractor has contacted the beams that are coming for that new bridge are being made out in Ohio. And I know he talked to them about getting the beams ordered and coming even before his contract was signed. So, he wanted to make sure the beams are here when they're ready to start putting it over. Item 3, I guess, is vacating the road. Really nothing new to report there. I do need to get that draft resolution to Jim and Ben. Item 4, just I guess a little point of interest. This guy came through. I saw a picture showing, front and rear. They've got a push truck and a pull truck. There's 20 rows of axles total.
How fast do they go?
He rolled down the road pretty darn fast.
Ron, can you say what that thing is?
It's a boiler that
Was made in,
it's made in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it's going to that new fertilizer plant that they're building down in Lee County.
and that's something.
And there's 2 of them. And but that one picture shows a little bit better. But
How do they turn?
And that's a lot of concentrated weight. There's a lot of length there that's.
yeah, he was 257 feet long, 18 foot wide. I thought they'd close the road when they come through, but I took those pictures. To back up, they came down out of BB County on M54, and then they went over D15 and come down N14, and we had a small bridge up there that I was concerned about, so I sent his axle spacing information to Calhoun and Burns and had them analyze that bridge to see whether that would be an issue. And they said, no, you can cross it. They always put in there, cross it 5 mile an hour, no braking, no accelerating. And I had called them, asking them, requesting that they let us know, when they were coming off of Highway 7, so we could get up and take a look at while they went over that bridge or watch it. I got the call, and they were already on Highway 20 going east, so.
What would you do if the thing went down?
Call, tell them they're responsible.
Well, and that probably cost, I haven't seen the bill from Calvin and Burns yet, but I told, the moving company that they had to pay for that analysis, and I'm guessing it's gonna cost $150 to $200. But we get a $10 permit fee
Yeah, for that.
for that load.
Isn't that crazy?
They really need to look at revising that. But, yeah,
So, do they do that run in every county they cross probably gets a $10 fee?
Yes.
That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah, the Service Bureau apparently went through Monroe County on its way to Lee County after they were through here, because they see the Service Bureau, they'd taken some pictures too and put up on the Engineer Service Bureau and says, made some comment on it, well, yeah, we get a whopping $10 to allow the load to go through. He's 18 foot wide. I thought they would actually close the road ahead of him, but he come down Highway 4 and he's right over next to the center line where he's got that outside set of duals running on the shoulder, and he was rolling around, I'd say he was rolling 30, 35 mile an hour.
I'd like to meet him with a combine.
Yeah.
But all those axles in the middle, they've got cylinders on them, and then those tandems somehow, and I don't know whether it's, as fast as he went around the corner, it almost seems to me that they must have some kind of sensors that senses the drag, and so, adjust it somehow.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be able to do that manually.
There's 3 axles in this group and 3 tandem, well, actually 12 sets of tandems in this group and 12 in that group. He just goes right around the corner.
But at that length, I mean, that still takes a heck of a.
Yeah, but he did, Highway 4 there in Old 20, he just turned right around, and when he got to the building, they stopped the traffic. He's got a blue boy in front and a blue boy behind, and they've got 2 escort vehicles in front and 1 escort vehicle behind.
Highway 4, and then he went on Old 20?
That mile toward Rockville City.
To get 4. going-
4 south.
Oh, so he didn't go through Rockville City?
No,
Okay.
no.
I was-
He went
I
4
see.
south, and I think according to the permit, he was going clear down to 141 before he switched.
I see.
He was gonna be on Highway 4 that long, so. But
Hmm.
there's a second one coming through, supposedly as soon as they get this one done, but when I talked to the guy at DOT that was involved in routing this guy, he said that, and I don't know how long they've been working on this, I mean, I think they called us about at least a month ago. But, he said one time they were looking at a route that took them clear down by Kansas City and up through Missouri.
Yeah. As soon as the frost is out, that shoulder thing isn't going to be very good.
Well, that's what I thought too, is I hope to get this thing moved in the next, next week, if it gets cold again a little bit. But,
Every now
It wouldn't have worked yesterday.
otherwise, I'd just seem to close the road and go down the center of our roads at least.
Me too. I mean, you might suggest that. Because I mean, don't want them on the shoulder. That'll just.
Yeah. I did find out after, I had talked to the Captain Moline with the Blue Boys. And I said, don't they let the counties know that this thing's coming through, for dispatch and, at least be, so that we're aware? And he said, no, we don't tell them it's coming through. But I had called dispatch here, because I thought maybe they would hear chatter that the thing was coming out of BV County, and they could give me some advance warning that they were coming. But she said, when I called her, that was the first she knew they were coming, and she says, they've got that new MOX program where it tracks where all the, and she
Way
says-
boys are.
Way boys and the patrolmen, and she says, well, let me check MOX, and she says, oh, yeah, they're already on Highway 20, they're, because it showed up that those 2 DOT escorts were, it said, no, on them said unavailable, oversized, or oversized load escort or something, so she knew right away where they were at when I called her. I should have called her sooner. Then I would have known they were coming up there. Anyway.
Did you get my email about Grant City?
Yeah, and I left here, so I didn't have them with me.
That's what Connie brought to me, and she can't find up there in the northeast corner, that Ann Street and J Street.
She didn't look, she looked in these books and pages? And
Yeah, she said those aren't the right book and page. So I thought, well, instead of me looking, I'd ask you where you got it.
I've got copies in the office, I can scan and
Send them
email
to
to
her.
her, or you,
Yeah,
or
her.
both of you?
No, I don't want it. She's doing the, Bob's doing something. I don't want
And then, did you see Mike's response on,
Yes, yes. Thank him for that.
like I told him, I don't think it's our responsibility to move people's mailboxes.
No?
And the other trouble with the wet, heavy snows is, you know, people put mailboxes up and they sit out there for 10, 15 years and the board underneath them rots or the nails, you know, rust off and of course they're just sort of sitting there, so the first time we go by with a plow and there's wet, heavy snow, it hits it. And even though we don't hit the snow with the wing, and our policy says if the snow takes it off, we don't, you know, we don't replace it. If it's our equipment that hits it and bends it up, then yeah, we'll replace it.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Yep.
Good luck with your basement.
Well, it's in the garage, so it's not in the house. It's in, I've got a bathroom in the garage, and it's coming up. A floor drain in there. But they always say the warm weather pushes the frost down, so I don't understand how it does that.
We had a broken pipe, that's been there my whole lifetime, that froze this year and broke that. I've never had trouble with it before. There's a lot of that.
I had, over the farm, I had the old well pit in the old pump house. The water lines still run through there to the hydrants, and of course, there's not any livestock there except for a horse, so not much water runs through there. And that day the wind blew so hard from the south and it was so cold, it froze up the lines in the bottom of that pit, even though I had it covered with a couple carpets, but I had to throw a heater in there. As soon as I thawed out, it didn't leak, so I was lucky there, it didn't freeze hard.
Ours had a riser. I had water coming up.
But yeah, there's been a lot of water flooding through.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made, seconded, adjourned. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All ayes, motion carries.